This is the project we're going to do today. It's a very simple project done with just 2 stamps and colored with PanPastels. And I stamped on some Master's Touch mixed media. And so let's begin. And I'm going to use my stamping platform to stamp this bare rubber stamp, and I'm going to use a background stamp that I purchased from the Purple Onion. This is a super sticky photopolymer stamp. I'm just going to place it on top. I'm using a Misty Creative Corner, and I'm going to stamp on just some typing paper to begin with. So I'm positioning it in my stamping platform and then closing the lid, and that's going to pick up the background stamp and the unmounted red rubber stamp. And I'm using a Misty Creative Corner so that I can offset the paper a bit, and I'm going to use some temporary adhesive to adhere the typing paper down on the platform. And I'm going to use some Memento Tuxedo Black to stamp the main stamp onto the typing paper. And now I'm going to start coloring with the PanPastels. So I'm going to start with the phthalo blue tint and put on the first layer of color. And I'm using the stamping that I did on my printer paper to get a layout of where I want my gradients to be, where the water is going to be, and where the sky is going to be, and that sort of thing. And so as I continue from lightest to darkest, I just pat the little brush on the PanPastel and just brush it onto the scene. It's really pretty easy to do. And now I'm going to put my colored panel back into my stamping platform. I'll put some temporary adhesive on the back of the page, and I'm going to use some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I am going to stamp this several times, and I'm going to apply quite a bit of pressure when I stamp onto the mixed media paper. And here I'm going to ink it up again and stamp it, trying to get a darker image. And here I'm inking it up a third time. And I'm still not really satisfied with the darkness of the stamped image. So at this point, I'm going to let the VersaFine ink dry for a bit, and while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and stamp in the gulls into the sky, into the image. And once I'm finished with that, I'm going to try stamping several times with some archival jet black ink, just to try and get the main image a little darker. And now I'll remove the image from my stamping platform. And I'm going to use my heat gun to try and help dry all this black ink that we've got on there. Now I'm using a white gel pen just to add some white highlights to the scene. Okay, and I'm going to give everything a chance to dry now, and then I'm going to spray it with a fixative sealer, and we'll be back. Okay, I'm going to take this outside now, and I'm going to spray it with some Krylon workable fixative. Okay, I've sprayed it with the fixative, and I'm going to give it a while to dry. And once everything is dry, I'm going to use my paper trimmer and trim off the edges. And now I'm going to mat it onto some white printer paper. And I'll use my paper trimmer to trim down this white mask. And now I'll mount it onto the black cardstock mask. And here is the finished piece, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!